The honourable member for Edmonton Calder, followed by the honourable member for Old Didsbury Three Hills, followed by the honourable member for Edmonton Millwood.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased today to rise and speak to motion 507, brought forward by my good friend, the honourable member from St. Albert. So I want to thank him, first of all, for his work with this motion. He, as an Alberta land surveyor and a Canadian land surveyor, knows more about this particular issue than any other person that I know. So I know he speaks not only with authority, but he certainly speaks with a commitment and some compassion for what would be largely regarded as being fair for everyone else. This motion, Mr. Speaker, encourages the government to end the policy of adverse possession, otherwise known as squatters' rights. And for those who may be unfamiliar with squatters' right, it's a possession of land without legal title for a period of time that is deemed sufficient to become the legal owner. So it's a very nice concept, but it does present with it some problems. The basic principle of adverse possession is that an individual who operates a piece of land for a continuous length of time without complaints from the landowners should be able to claim that land after enough time has passed. This practice is grounded in the tradition of English common law and has existed in our province for nearly a century. Adverse possession can be seen as a legitimate means of acquiring property in medieval England, primarily because at the time property boundaries were marked with such landmarks as hedges, stone walls, and large trees. And naturally, such a system caused many, many disputes in land claims. And many of these disputes, Mr. Speaker, lasted for generations as land was passed down amongst the families. So the idea of adverse possession was proposed in order to ensure that an individual or family would not have property boundaries unexpectedly redrawn. And as is the case with most laws, Mr. Speaker, adverse possession is a remnant of an age and a place where such a policy was necessary in order to keep a degree of order. Clearly, the technology we have in place today allows us to much better track land titles. Nowadays, we have advanced survey systems in Alberta which ensures they are able to accurately define and record land boundaries. Under the systems, which is based upon the Torrens land registration system, the government is responsible for ensuring the accuracy of land titles. So if there is a dispute between two landowners due to a mistake in the land titles registry, the government must provide compensation for damages that resulted from that mistake. Yet despite this, the policy of adverse possession continues to exist. And it is indeed unfortunate the original adverse possession laws in Alberta that an argument was not made that the laws of England that were adopted in 1870 did not make sense in Alberta given the adoption of the Torrens systems of land registration. Instead, the decision that adverse possession could coexist with a registry system was made based on the precedent set by the Privy Council decision on a case in British Honduras in the late 19th century. Mr. Speaker, for those of you who have the privilege to travel to British Honduras, or Belize as it is known now, will understand that certainly the country and its history are far different than our own. And it's always interesting to go back in these early cases to try to understand how we rationalize our current laws. But even in 1913, it was unlikely that a case in British Honduras or Belize could be relevant compared to the Western Canadian context in terms of land tenure. Today, in 2011, this reason is even more irrelevant. And it is now up to this Assembly to rectify these laws of the past and establish laws that are reasonable for the future. This legislation has already modified the application of adverse possession in certain practical Alberta situations, and it is time that we abolish the doctrine altogether. It has been determined that abolishing adverse possession would not be administratively costly, which of course is an important consideration. And I cannot see any reason why this doctrine needs to continue to operate in Alberta. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would yet again like to thank the honourable member for Edmonton St. Albert for bringing this forward. Yes, I thank you, honourable member. I was just briefly confused there because I had thought we had actually annexed, but I understand we never quite got that off the table. I believe the decision we have here today has been productive, and I hope that my comments about the nature of adverse possession will add to the debate. I will be supporting this motion and urge my fellow colleagues to do the same. In the meantime, I look forward to hearing more input from my honourable colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.